Hey.
All right. Hey, Danny.
Oh, yeah.
How's it going?
Great. Good.
Cool. Yeah. Well, hey, everyone out there. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you may be. Thanks so much for joining us today. Sorry we got a little bit of a late start. We had some technical difficulties, but we're here.
It was my fault. Sorry.
I wasn't going to pass any blame. I'm just happy that we're here and ready to rock and roll.
Totally take the blame.
But yeah, awesome to see. I'm going to actually bring the chat up. We've got a bunch of folks saying hi. And yeah.
Hi, Neil.
Hi, Neil. Neil's a popular friend, familiar with Neil. Hey, Shiva. Hey, Arlemi. Hey, Sitharamu.
Who's that? Who's Arlemi?
Who is Arlemi?
New guy.
Yeah.
French guy.
But yeah, this is awesome. Hi, Krishma. Thanks so much for joining, everybody. We've got an awesome stream planned today. We're doing it a little bit earlier than we usually do to accommodate the great Danny Dayton, as we internally call him here. I know he's going to be embarrassed and shake his head at us. But yeah, so today we'll be talking about using custom reporters with Newman. Hopefully, if you have no idea what that means, stick around. We're going to dive into everything and cover all that. If you are familiar with Newman, awesome. I think you're going to learn some really exciting things today. But yeah, Danny, look how many folks we got saying hi. I'm pretty excited for this stream.
Hello, everyone from everywhere. It's great. Good as this.
Yeah. Should we do a quick introduction on ourselves for those that aren't familiar?
I mean, I'm the great Danny Dayton, so I don't really need to introduction. I'll let you go ahead first.
Sure. So hey, everyone, I'm Sean Keegan. I am a developer advocate at Postman. I've been here about 9 months now. I'm based in New York City. And as a dev advocate, I get to do cool things like hop on these streams with folks that know more than me about things and ask them to explain it. And just get to work with folks in the community and see what people are saying and enjoying about Postman. And yeah, so I'm very excited for that role and today in general.
Cool. Yeah, and I'm Danny. I'm one of the quality engineers at Postman. I've been at Postman now for, I guess, over 2 years. It's time's flown. I try and involve myself with many things, sometimes on the product side, the DevRel side, and especially in the community side. So I like dipping my fingers in many pies. And now I get to jump on a stream with Sean. That's really cool. Awesome.
Yeah, so I think let's go ahead and jump into, I'm kind of give a bit of a preview of what we're going to talk about today. So Newman, if you're not familiar, is actually, Danny, you know what? I feel like you'll probably explain it better. So do you want to just give a brief high-level overview of kind of what Newman is and what we're going to dive into today?
Sure. Newman, high level. Newman is the command line runner that has been created by the Postman team. It's a node project. It allows you to take your collections that you've authored in the app or the web view and run them from the command line or integrate them into your continuous integration tools that you have or and lots of other cool things that you can do with it as well. It's really extendable.
Awesome. Yeah. So I think I'm going to actually go ahead. I'm going to share my screen. So we're going to talk for a bit today. Feel free. This is a very much an interactive conversation. So we see a lot of folks saying hi in the chat. If you have questions throughout or something Danny said didn't make sense or something I said didn't make sense or you just want to know more, please feel free and pop it in the chat where we'll be happy to kind of answer that. We want this to be an interactive process. So certainly let us know. We'll try and
answer all questions. We'll give it a go.
If we don't know, we'll just skip right over it and pretend we didn't see it.
I'll ask Joyce or Neil or Arlemi or anybody else.
Exactly. Cool. So I think I'm going to share my screen in a second here and just kind of show, I think what most people are familiar with in Postman, whether they're using it as an app or whether they're using it on the web. people are used to using Postman and running collections and making requests and maybe some of the more kind of basic use cases. And we'll kind of talk about how that's evolved or like what you can do to kind of get more advanced use cases and talk about some of the things that we were going to get into in the stream. So let me go ahead and share my screen.
Cool.
Okay. So I'm going to pull it up here. We're going to hide our heads. I'm going to hide the chat for now, but still feel free to ping us, even though you can't see the chat right now. Danny and I are still reading it. So hello, Olga. Hello, Roshan. Hello, Satha. Welcome, welcome. But yeah, so this is Postman. I'm right now just in a very basic public workspace, and I'll zoom in so you can see even more. What I've done here is just created a extremely basic collection. There's really not much going on here. It's just a series of 3 requests, and each one is a very basic GET request to our internal Postman Echo tool. So that's just an API that whatever you send to it, will send it right back to you. Just kind of a way to practice and play with various types of requests and stuff. So if you see this, when I click send, this is probably what most folks are familiar with in Postman. Click send. Here's my request, and down here is my response. So here's request 1. Here's request 2. I can go ahead and send these each individually, play around, see what happens, and yeah, pretty basic stuff. But the next thing I want to talk about is this tool we have in the app and in the web, in Postman for the web, called the runner, which is just going to take a collection that you have and just run through it in sequential order, or unless you have some other conditional logic, it can change it. But this is kind of the UI version of running a full collection. I'm going to take this folder, or this collection rather, drag it into this area here, and then you'll see I have request 1, request 2, request 3. I'll click run demo collection. So this is all manual process right now, right? I'm dragging things, I'm clicking that run button, and then it ran each request in sequential order. So nothing too crazy, but pretty valuable tool to be able to just run your full collection, run things manually in Postman. So that's kind of cool, right? But there's way more you can do. Yeah. So I think from here, a lot of people, there's more that people want to do. And, if you wanted to use Collection Runner, or this idea of, running your collections in order in some sort of automated fashion, or not having to go into Postman, the app, or Postman for the web and do that, there are ways to do that. And I think that is where I'll pass the baton to my friend Danny to kind of talk about some of the ways that we can do that.
Sure. I mean, we can just stop on here for a couple of seconds and just go through maybe a couple of things quickly, because even from opening up the runner. So the runner itself, Sean used the menu bar at the bottom to open the runner, which opens a new tab. But there's a number of different other ways you can open the runner from the collection itself. If you hover over the collection name, and the 3-dot menu will reveal some actions. If you click on that, and then you can run the collection. So it's the second one down. That will open again, the same runner, but also opens the actual collection. So you don't have to drag it into the window itself. But also from every individual tab that you open, you're opening each collection or request or folder. So if you go back to the request, the tab that has the collection, on the 3-dot menu that you have on the view there. So we go down slightly. The next one down, sorry, on the bar to the right. Yeah, that's the one. So if you open that up as well, that has a run button as well. So there's multiple different ways you can access the collection runner. So if you get stuck in any way, you can look at the menus, you can look at the bottom, you can look lots of different ways to open that runner itself. So it's pretty cool.
I didn't know this one, Danny. This is a new one to me. I don't think I've ever noticed these 3 dots here.
So at the moment, it's the sizing is quite dynamic. So if you were to close the collection sidebar, you should see a run button.
So close the collection sidebar. So close this?
The opposite side.
Oh, close this. Okay.
Yeah, and then that would expand all the options there. So that run button becomes an actual button. So because it's a dynamically changing window, it will show or not show. So you can see that. Close all the sidebars. I mean, he loves it. He wants every sidebar open because he loves no space.
I like seeing everything. Yes, thank you, Arlemy.
That's awesome. That's cool because there's obviously lots of different ways you can access lots of different things in Postman, and having the ability to open things from multiple places, I think that's pretty cool in my opinion. But
cool. So one thing, Priyanka has asked, can we repeat the topic? So we're going to talk more about all of this stuff. I do want to mention, like, so all these videos will be available to watch again later on our YouTube page. So if you missed something now, like, you can certainly watch again and, pause and take things in, on demand when the video is available. It should be up either later today or tomorrow. So if you missed something and we don't happen to cover it, feel free to watch those videos later as well.
Cool. Yeah, I can share my screen.
Cool.
Over to you. Let's share this. Go that way. Okay, hopefully when it's on screen you can see it.
All right, I'm pulling it up here.
If it's not visible, if it needs to be zoomed in, just let me know, and I can do that from my side.
It looks good from here, but if folks in the chat are having a hard time seeing it, feel free to let us know, and we'll see if Danny can zoom in a bit. But it looks good to me.
No problem. Anything you want. So obviously similar view to what Sean had. This is in my Postman app, my web version of the app, and running the collection from the command line is cool. In the app, we can do it as much as we want, but we can also take these collections and run them with Newman, which it's the whole stream is about. And Newman is the command line companion for Postman, as it says there. It allows you to take those collections and then run them from the command line, or in your CI pipelines, or different apps that you might integrate, or you might want to use Newman as a library. And this is what we're going to go through. So Newman, it's an open source project. It's on GitHub. It's pretty active at the moment. There's lots of people contributing to the whole project. So because it's open source, people from the community are telling us about different ideas they want, different features they want into the project itself. So yeah, it's an ongoing thing at the moment. So I want to go through maybe a couple of demos that will take some of the collections that I have in my Postman instance and then run them from the command line. So I want to go to my terminal again. If this is not visible or not big enough, then we can make it bigger. So just let me know, or Sean can let me know if you're checking the chat.
Looks good to me so far.
Cool. So to install Newman itself, I'm not going to go through the whole process of installing Newman because I use it all the time. So I've obviously got it installed. But it is a Node package, so you'd need Node.js installed. And then being a Node package, you can use npm to install it. So npm install and then Newman, and that will bring in all the project files. And you need to use the -g flag, which is, let's go through it actually, rather than me trying to explain it. That would be easier, wouldn't it? So all the npm, so multiple times I've installed these things. My autocomplete is telling me what I've done before. So yeah, so you'd use this command to install it globally, and then Newman is available everywhere on your system. Once this is installed globally, you can run it from any project folder, any part of your file system, and that will allow you to run your collections. So in the most basic term, so if I go back to the app, because that's where we're going to start from. So to get those collections, there's a number of different things you can do. So the most common thing is to export the files. So export that collection as a static JSON file, which will never change. So if you make changes in the app, it will always be that static file, and that file will never know those new changes. So it's probably it's the easiest way of doing it, but probably not the best way that I would do it. But I'm going to go through those ways anyway. So again, there's multiple different ways that you can export the app. The action menu has normally got every single thing that you could do, and it's one of the ones at the bottom. So if you expand from the collection name on the left-hand side of your app, open up the action menu and then export down the bottom. And once you hit that button, it will give you a number of different ways to do things, to export it on a different version. So 2.1 is the recommended version that would be the best thing to export. And once you hit export, that will open up your file system and allow you to save that file wherever you may want it.
So Danny, I have actually a quick question there. What's the difference between those versions, the V2 and V2.1?
I think they're just different configurations of what the actual the collection JSON object is. Different properties and different structure of the JSON, which is we've ever changed. It used to be another version before, obviously before 2. So that's a versioning technique that we use, and that 2.1 is the most recent version. And cool. Eventually we will kind of depreciate the version 2 because that's not the way we would like people to export the file. So again, like I said, there's multiple different ways of exporting things. There's another menu on the collection tab itself where you can export the collection from here, and it will do the same thing. So it will open up that context bar or that modal again. So I've done this previously, so I'm going to drop back to my terminal, and in my project, in this little Newman practice project, I've got a number of different files and scripts that I'll come to later on in the stream. But I've got a couple of collections I've exported already, which I'm going to run and hopefully show you kind of the similar view of what Sean did in the app with the collection runner. So I'm going to take the environment off at the moment and then explain that afterwards.
Yeah, so we're just to kind of take a quick step back here. So really what you're doing is, the same thing that I did through the Postman UI, correct?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, it's taking everything that you're doing in the UI. So you're opening up the command, the collection runner. You're specifying which collection you want to run, and then it's running it. But this is using Newman and doing it from the command line.
Cool.
So this, I'm gonna run this, but this will probably fail, and it will fail for the reason that you can probably see highlighted on the screen. So once you press enter, this will go off and run Newman, and it will run that collection. There might be a bit of a lag here, but you can see a lot of red there, which is intentional. It wasn't. I knew that was going to happen. So what Newman does, so just taking a step back. So what Newman does, it takes all the requests and the folders in your collection, it runs those, and it gives you like a simplified view of what those requests are doing. So you're getting, from a high level, you're getting the collection name, and then you're getting the folder name, and then within that folder, you're getting the request name. So you're kind of stepping through it. And then it will give you a view about what method you've used, the request itself, the URL, the status code, the timings. And then below that, you get an output of any test that you've included in your request. So it's similar, again, to the collection runner. This is what you get here. And at the bottom of it, apologize if I'm scrolling too quickly. So Newman, by default, uses the CLI runner, which is what you can see here. And it gives you a summary view about what's happened, how many iterations you've run, how many requests it has, test scripts, assertions, etc., and the total time it run. So it gives you kind of like a very simplified, here's what happened in the command line. And also, if you have any failures, it's going to tell you about them. It's going to tell you the details of them. It's going to tell you what failed. Is it a surgeon error? Is it a script error? As you can see, there's kind of varying different things that's happening here. So my base URL variable wasn't resolved, so that's a different error than a surgeon error. But what we're going to do is going to run that again. So I'm going to clear out of that. Again, please stop or ask questions if I'm going too quickly. I know it's pretty basic at the moment, but I'd like to stop and explain things rather than just plow forward because I love this stuff. So
yeah, Danny, this is Newman out of the box, right? This is
yes,
Newman functionality is. Yep, cool.
Yeah, so this is this is what everyone gets. This is no reporters. This is just out of the box Newman. This is what you get. So yeah, it's all pretty cool. So
Danny, I'm going to pull up a quick question here that we got.
Yeah,
Menchie has said, is there any plan to make it more collaborative in terms of local changes done to Postman collection, i.e. rather than exporting the collection every time the changes are made? It would be better if changes made locally and the Postman would just update. And I think there's more to the question I can't see.
So I can see the rest of it.
Okay.
Yeah, I hopefully get the general gist of the question. So what I'm explaining here is not an updated version. So like I explained, these exported files are just going to be that kind of snapshot of what it is at the moment. So if you're making changes in your development process, to your collection in the app, you're not going to be reflected in these static files. So it's a very manual aspect of exporting every time you make a change, which is obviously not ideal or efficient. So what we can do, once I run this, I'll explain what I suggest would be the best way of doing it, and to give you the most up-to-date version of that collection as it is. Every time you press save, you're running it in Newman, every time. So I'm just going to run through this, and I'll jump back, and then I'll talk about what I would use. So I wouldn't use a static file, so I would use something else.
So one other comment we got here, Danny, from Sumit. Please talk more about Newman reporters. I promise we'll get there. Like Danny, like Danny said, we're kind of doing the kind of the background and kind of like the evolution of how the reporters came to be. What you get out of the box, and then what some of the reporters and some of the other tools do. So Sumit, stay with us. Promise we'll get to some stuff.
I promise. I promise it will get better. So I'm going to run the collection again, and I'm going to use the environment file this time. So some of those errors were caused by a missing variable, which you can bring in using this flag, which is the -e flag, which is environment. It's the shorthand version of -- environments or environment. And you just run the same collection. It will do the same thing, but also it would populate that placeholder variable within the collection with the value. So this time you can see no red, thankfully. Everything's going through. We've got green everywhere, so everything's cool, right? So jumping back into the question, I would use, so Sean created an awesome video. It's on YouTube. It's in our level up videos of the Postman API. And using the Postman API, you can get access to your collections. So I'm going to jump back into the app. So as you can see on the collection sidebar at the side here, I can see the GUI view of this collection. But using the Postman API, we can actually get the JSON value of what that collection actually is, what it represents. We can get that by slight lag on my computer. So we can use the Postman API to target that particular collection and then get the response, which is the JSON object that you can see at the bottom here. So that's essentially what that UI view is pushing out. So this is what you can see. So by using the Postman API, every time I make a save to this collection here, it's reflected in here. So pretty much if I was to, let's change something on Zyke, I put something, that makes sense, right?
Classic file name.
Classic. So I can see, I chose that one because I can see health check here. So I'm going to do that. So hopefully, fingers crossed, this is actually going to do it. I was not going to resolve because I haven't picked my right environment. Top tip, pick the right environment. So what it's going to do then is going to get those changes of that thing that I just did. So I renamed a folder, and now you can see it. So in the same sense that I can use that same URL in Newman, so I can take this URL and then take my my collection ID and append that to the path. And then using your Postman API token, which can be used in a header or in a query parameter, you can run the same URL through Newman and get that updated collection every single time. Does that make sense?
So, Danny, one other quick question we had. Yeah, that sounds awesome. From Shiva's asking, I guess telling us, we also need to export the environment to include in the CLI. I think this is kind of what we're hinting at now here, right? Of like the ability to use the Postman API to get these things if needed.
Yeah. So same, like I did with the collection. There are different endpoints of the Postman API give the ability to target those different entities that you have within your collection or your environment or your workspace. So I can do the same thing where I've got the RESTful Booker environment, which just resolves this base URL of this practice app that I've been using. So you can use the same URL, so that -e, and then the same Postman API URL.
Cool.
So where do we want to go next? I just want to touch on the different flags of Newman, because we've only kind of touched on, okay, you're running a collection, this is an environment, what else can I do? What else is in there? So on Newman itself, once it's installed globally, you have a help option, which hopefully when it runs. So this is my machine. as I was using the environment flag there, so it was dash dash environment. So you have a series of different flags that you can use to append to that command and run various different things from running a specific folder, bringing in reporters, changing the iteration count, using data files, delaying requests, timeouts. There's a series of different things. So using that, using that Newman run and then -H for the help will bring up every single thing that the Newman can do for you. So it's a little bit more extensive than the collection runner, and that's why I like using it.
Danny, I do want to point out to our viewers, because it took me a second to follow along. We say the letters H quite differently. And so when you talk about the HTML reporter later, it just, I was like, I don't know what that is exactly. But yeah, so I think H and H are synonymous for us.
So this is really bad because I'm like at the moment my 5-year-old daughter is like learning to read. So every time I'm pronouncing a word or I'm saying it, we have to do things like phonetically. So I'm trying to describe a word to my daughter that I wouldn't say it like that. That's not how my brain works. So I'm kind of, is it H or H or Yeah. And it's very strange every single time. So if I say the wrong pronunciation of a letter, then I apologize, and I'm not going to blame my daughter, but that's the reason why.
I like that. Yeah. Well, hopefully, yeah. If she's into Newman and custom reporters, maybe she'll find out that you blamed her. But I think otherwise we'll be all right.
Yeah, she won't find out. So what are we going to move on to now? So do you want to move on to reporters? So I think that's kind of the main topic, right? Or we can stop and do some stuff or answer some questions.
Yeah. Well, so I think one thing that kind of would lead into, like reporters and, why use them is, talking about like, talking about some of the reasons you would use Newman and some of the ways you could use it. I think, what are maybe, I don't want to say limitations because it sounds, like it has a negative connotation to it, but, what led to, the creation of reporters, or like, what is reporters, like, why go beyond just what Newman can offer?
That's a great question. I mean, sort of out of the box, I apologize for my water. So out of the box, Newman obviously gives you that CLI output, which is handy, it's useful, of course. But within the Newman run summary itself, the thing that's running, there's a lot of data that you can use. You can present in lots of different ways. The CLI reporter is presenting that data in a certain way. There's JSON reporters that will present that data in a certain way, but it's all kind of based off the same Newman run summary. So it's just taking bits and pieces of that summary and then saying, okay, I'm going to map that to this. That's it, and that's the output. So what Newman from the start was intended to be extendable. So it's there's the easy way to create a custom reporter and run your own custom reporter using the data that you want to run. And that's where lots of the custom reporters, including my own, came about, because I wanted to present the data in a way that I felt I needed, rather than something that has been given to me. Does that make sense? So I had a problem. I needed to solve a problem. The way to solve that problem was to take the data and present it in a way that I felt I needed, rather than how it was given to me. That kind of makes sense?
Yeah, that makes sense to me. And I see, Priyanka has asked, what is the use of Newman? And we kind of just covered that, right? It's like, CLI tool to basically, run your collections outside of the Postman UI. Yeah, so Priyanka, if you stick with us, we'll dive into a bit more about some of the reporters for Newman, and so we're excited about that. And
I think we just go straight into the reporters.
Yeah. Just seeing if we've got any other questions here before we jump into the reporters. Will the team workspace feature be available on Postman Community Edition? And please talk about licensing. The team workspace feature. I'm going to let somebody in our chat handle that, but I believe so. But yeah, so Ajay has answered, what Newman is for. So CLI for Postman. Yeah. So Ajay, thanks for hopping in and taking that answer. We'd love to see folks in the community being active and answering questions for us. So awesome. So should we hop into reporters, Danny?
Yeah, we can. Yeah, sure.
Cool. All right, I'm going to bring your screen back up here.
Cool. I've got NPM up. So because Newman is an NPM project, the reporters themselves are little tiny NPM projects as well, or NPM packages. And there are so many. There are a ton of different awesome reporters created to solve a certain problem, and lots of them are easily discoverable, mainly because each of the reporter needs to follow a certain naming convention for Newman to recognize that as a reporter. So I couldn't call my reporter Danny because it would be like, who's that? So the Newman reporter needs to follow the kind of naming convention of Newman hyphen, like try and type. So if I bring up all the search result of Newman reporter, hopefully you see the rest of it. So as you can see here, this is an InfluxDB one. So again, for pushing the data to InfluxDB and then probably making some sort of visualization or graph or something off that. But the naming convention is Newman reporter and then the name of the reporter. So mine, HTML extra, is Newman reporter, HTML extra. So again, looking at NPM and doing a quick search of the reporters, there's so many. I mean, it's 148. Some of them are unique, some of them are slightly the same as the others, but they're all solving a problem. Someone had a problem, they wanted to create a reporter, and they've published these reporters to the NPM repository for people to use. So obviously, there's a caveat, with installing something from someone else. You're bringing that into your machine, so it's all down to you and your own personal security and the way that you operate. But essentially, hopefully I'm as safe as there can be, but I'm not the person publishing all these packages, so I don't know. So if you wanted to use a reporter,
Danny, you see the nice words from Evan Lindsay? This guy Danny is really impressive.
He's impressive.
Yeah, Danny is the best. A lot of fanfare.
Okay, thank you. I really appreciate that. But I'm obviously really embarrassed by it as well. So thank you.
I'll continue to pull him up, so don't worry.
Yeah, no, thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you, Neil. So reporters, so there's lots of reporters out there for solving different problems. So someone might want to send the Newman report to a Slack message, like they've done there. There's some guy there done something, and there's lots of different things. So having a flip through there, maybe you want your Newman collections to output a CSV file of the reporter. I know there's a guy called Matt Bull who's created a CSV reporter, which is awesome as well. And then this person here has created a reporter to output a har file, which is obviously something else that people might want. So there's lots of different reporters available for you to use if you want to use them for a particular use case, or you could go ahead and create your own. And that's pretty much what I did. So moving on to my next tab, some guy created this one. So I had a problem. I needed to solve it. I was essentially using the Postman created HTML reporter, and that was cool. It was what I needed. But I was doing a hackathon project at the time, and I wanted something different. I wanted to display something different. So I had a go at trying creating a reporter about two years ago. And this is kind of what I came up with. My beautiful logo is created by Bruce, who's in the testing community, and they are good people. So yeah, I created a reporter that I wanted to display things in a way that's there's a lot of data you can play around with, and I wanted to expose all of that data, but I also want to expose ways of manipulating that data. So maybe someone doesn't want all the data, they want to get just the responses or just something. So I've added flags in there to do that, so you can adjust the reporter to your needs. And this is a kind of demo of the reporter, but I'm going to actually go into and show you the demo of the reporter. We're going to go back to my terminal. Sean, have you a question?
So Danny, was there a built-in reporter or anything out of the box, or is it only custom reporters that have been built by like folks and community members?
No. So like we said before, like the CLI reporter is the default reporter. If you specify no reporters, you're going to get the default reporter. Cool. But the cool thing about the reporters, and you access this by hyphen R. Is that right? Am I saying that right? R,
Yeah,
R,
perfect.
this character. Yeah, so you specify different reporters that you want to use by using this flag. And that's the shorthand version again. There's hyphen reporters to access the other reporters. Out of the box, Newman gives you the CLI reporter, which you saw, and the JSON reporter, which is a JSON report of the run, but also some cool things like a progress bar, which is just a progress bar, which is pretty cool, and to give you some CLI output when you don't use a reporter, but also an emoji train reporter, which is pretty weird but pretty cool. I've never had a use for it, but I really like it, but I've never really had a use for it. I'm going to show you the progress bar. Just hopefully that's how you spell progress. No, it's not, because that's not how you spell progress, Dan.
Yeah, I think you missed an R
I missed
in there.
an R. Damn it. My English. My system's so slow today.
Well, it wouldn't be a live stream without, a slow
of course.
process.
Progress. English is such a hard language. So what the progress bar gives you is this progress of the run, and it gives you kind of like an ETA based on the number of requests and how long it's taking, and then how many requests there were. It's just a really basic output. So that's out of the box as well. So that progress bar is in there. But also there's emoji train. So I think specifying double reporters, so you can use their comma separated. So you can use multiple reporters. You can use as many as you want, and use the flags for that particular reporter. And you do that by separating them by a comma. So if you do I can't even spell today. Emoji. It's because I'm being watched. That's why.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's the right thing or not. Might not be. No, it's not, because I can't spell emoji train. Oh, I did.
Yeah, there's emojis in there.
Kind of did work. So
Yeah.
I really didn't like that. Hey, we found an issue. Great with that. So, anywho, the emoji train, you kind of saw that. You kind of didn't. It gives you like like an emoji face of a smiley face, or I think love hearts if the collection was cool. Thank you for spelling that for me. I'm so bad. So with going back on like different reporters, so bringing like my reporter into the mix, and showing that, because I know we've got to quite far in the stream, and I'm not actually showed anything that I've created yet, which is perfectly fine. I love Newman. I love showing Newman, but to access my reporter, you'd have to, because it's an npm project package. Sorry, you'd have to install that as well. So similar way you would install Newman. So npm install -g, and then Newman, and then you'd specify the reporter name. So Newman reporter HTML extra. So once that's installed, then you have the ability to specify that in your Newman run. So the HTML extra. I know how to spell that one. So that brings the reporter into, I want to run this reporter.
So Danny, we have a bit of a spoiler alert. So if you haven't used HTML extra, Sunil says he's a big fan of the HTML extra dark mode report. So a little bit of a spoiler. So
spoiler.
But yes, I similarly appreciate
giving away my secrets. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to run my reporter with the same collection, the same environment. So I've completely ripped off the progress bar, as you can see. I wanted to show this because I completely ripped it off. So because my reporter is no real output of my reporter, it just kind of does its thing, and then the prompt return, that's it. So I wanted to integrate some sort of like feedback for people, so they could see something is happening. I promise you, something is happening. So I completely ripped off the Postman progress bar, as well as the HTML reporter that they created. So thank you, Postman, for continually to make me look awesome.
Well, isn't ripping off just improving and a standard in software development?
I'm completely going with ripping off, but I didn't improve anything. I totally stole it. So so what that does, so by default, it creates. Thank you for putting the command in. If you want to show that, I think -G
Oh
as
yeah.
well. So -G will bring it globally. So if you just do it like this, it's not going to install it globally. So you have to. That's a pretty important point if you're using it globally.
Yeah.
So thanks for posting that. Always give them an example. So by default, the file is created, but Newman creates a Newman directory, a Newman folder, and it puts every single report that you create, and you haven't specified a path into that folder. So what that looks like is that if I open up the project again, it's taken so long. So what it's done is it's created this Newman folder here, and what's the best way of showing this? I don't want to jump between two things. So yeah,
showing the HTML file.
So I can show it on anything, but trying to think of the best way to open the Newman report. Sound like an amateur now. No, that's not what I want. Or the level up. I want to show the RESTful Booker. So that essentially in that Newman directory, it's created this RESTful Booker file, this HTML file. So there's a couple there because I've run it a couple of times. And the most recent one is this one. So I have something that's going to open up that report on a browser. So just to show you, and I'll bring it into view once it decides to work for me. Or not. So I'll do this a different way. What I wanted to do before I moved on to this was to show you Newman from the command line. And this is just essentially, I'm in Visual Studio Code in the same project. I was just running it from just a terminal. And I wanted to show that before moving into the project side of it. But I can do the same thing here. So if anything doesn't look the same here, it might be because it's just the terminal part. So just this part here. But what I'm doing is I've just opened up the folder, the directories with all the files in there, just as another thing. So getting back to the thing that I created, if I was to open this up in my default browser window, which will open it up behind me. Okay, cool. We can see this now. Thank the Lord. So that took
Beautiful.
far too long. Oh my God, it switched automatically to dark mode because it's got a setting in my browser. So this is the report that I created, and like it's been pointed out already, I wanted to put a light theme, dark theme in there because people like dark themes, and it's pretty cool. And it's just a switch at the top to flip between stuff. There you go, light theme, dark theme. I don't know what the preference would be. Mine is dark, but only because it hurts my eyes, and I'm very sensitive.
Part of me is very impressed.
Look at all those themes, all two of them. I've got so many themes. Yeah, so what this is the report it creates. So the reporter, once you've specified the reporter itself, it'll create this file, and then it gives you just a different representation of the CLI output. So that summary table that you saw at the bottom of the CLI would be exactly this. So it's giving you here's the request, here's the pre-request, here's the scripts, here's the surgeons, but in a different view. So I've taken all that data and I said, okay, I want to represent it like this, and this is what the outcome of that. So this gives you kind of various different information and on a summary page at the start. But what I also included was a kind of tabbed effect, I guess. So this will go into those requests, and this will give you kind of like a view of those requests themselves. So these are the folders and how many requests are in the folders. There's a little indicator here. So if any of the requests actually failed, this would be red. So just give you like, okay, because you could have loads of folders. You could have so many folders and so many nested folders that you need a kind of quick visual clue of that. Okay, I just want to go to that one. That's the failed one there. So if I was to open up one of the more interesting ones, get a single booking. Okay, so I'm using this RESTful Booker practice app, which is publicly available. It's available all the time. It's created by a guy called Mark Winteringham, who created a facility for people to make requests to a dummy hotel booking site. So yeah, it's there. If you want to play around with it, it's available. It resets itself all the time, so you won't clog out the data. It will just get rid of it after maybe like 10 minutes, I think. So I'm just using that as an example to show the report. And what my reporter does is kind of brings all that information from the summary object and just pushes it onto a HTML format. So we've got the request methods, the times, the response codes. I added things like the test pass percentage. I can't even talk now. As a kind of view about how many tests were run within that collection. The number would obviously go down if there was failed. If there was 2, it would be 50%. If one failed, one passed. So it's just a different way of representing stuff. But also, I included the request headers, the response headers. This is the GET request, so it doesn't have a request body. If it had a request body, it would have another section with a request body and the data that you've presented. And then the response body, which you can copy to clipboard. But at the bottom, it's kind of got this little table of the summary of the tests themselves. And within this as well, I've included skip test. So skip test within Postman is a pretty cool feature where you can add a .skip next to your pm.test.skip, and that will it will kind of skip it, I guess, for a better word. Yeah, it won't run that test, so you won't see any passed or failures. It will just be a skip test. And what the reporter was doing before I created this one, it wasn't including those. So you'd have a bunch of skip tests, which were included in the past test, I think, the numbers. So it looked a bit strange. The reporting looked a bit strange.
Yeah, wouldn't it give you like any information on skip tests, right?
No, it didn't. It didn't do anything. So I just wanted to include something that presents that data, because I want people or anybody using the reporter to see the data that they've got in their collection. So I didn't want to hide anything. So that's, excuse me, and that's a basic running of the reporter. So if I jump back into, apologies for jumping around everywhere. So if I get rid of that. So
we do have a few questions. Is now a good time to kind of take a peek at some of these?
Yeah. Anytime. It's a great time to ask a question.
Yeah. So Sumit had said he faced an issue between CLI and HTML actual reporter. The HTML reporter did not simulate all the executed tests in the generated HTML report. However, CLI executed perfectly. Is this something that you've seen happen, or have an idea of what might be going on?
Without more details
context,
about the
hard,
collection and context, it's a really difficult one to answer questions like just in a sentence. But I'd love to hear more about that. So if you want to contact me on the community site, the Postman community site, or the my project, and you raise an issue with just a question and with the details of what's going on, I'd love to figure out what's going on there, because I'm interested in things going wrong. So if we can solve that together, that'll be great. But I just need I need a little bit more details about. I don't really know more.
Yeah. So yeah, that's a great opportunity to plug the community forum. Danny Dayton is omnipresent on the forum. We have quite a few Postmanauts that are quite active. And if you have questions, like Danny said, we love to see what's going on and what's going wrong, how people are using Postman and where they're getting stuck. So certainly hop on there and ask your questions. Suman also asked, is there any Jenkins native plugin for Newman?
Not a native plugin, I guess, but because it's a node package that you can bring in, or it's also a Docker image, so you can use Docker within Jenkins to run the same thing without bringing like the whole node and all the other packages with it. But not a native plugin as such. I'm not too sure if there's a plan for anything like that either. I haven't heard anybody ask for that either. I think that's the first time I've even seen that request.
So I'll throw another Jenkins related question at you here, Danny. Any suggestions or best practices for archiving reports for ephemeral Jenkins builds?
Not sure. I personally don't really use Jenkins, or I know very little about. I'm the worst person to ask about Jenkins, basically. But whatever strategy you use is going to be unique to you and your context. If you want to archive the reports, unfortunately, the reports don't aggregate together because it's a kind of like one for one. So you run one collection, you get one report. And there's no kind of like I want to run loads of collections over time and then get a full report. And if I could achieve that, I absolutely would. But I don't know how to do that, and two, I'd love to have the time to do that. But I think it's it's an interesting question. If anybody else uses Jenkins and they can give a better answer, that would be great. Or use it in the same way to archive reports or keep a running track of things. I apologize, I can't really answer. I don't know the answer to that question. I'm really sorry.
Well, Danny, I think one thing I appreciate about talking to you, and I feel like other folks will as well, is like if you don't know the answer, you're not gonna spew out a ton of nonsense about making stuff up. So I appreciate that.
I can give you an answer, but I don't want to send you down the wrong route and even proclaim to know the answer to everything, because I don't. I'm still learning. So
here's a few comments about dark mode. Yay, dark mode on. Batman's favorite mode. Charitra said, amazing. Batman's favorite mode. Juan says hi from Peru. Hi, Juan. Here's a question. So from Sunil, he asked, the logs which we are printing on the console, and this might be another one, Danny, where you might not know without a bit more context, but the logs which we are printing on the console are getting displayed in Postman, but in the HTML extra report, they're displayed as object. Any reason why?
So probably the reason why is me. That's probably the biggest reason why. So I've taken Newman, when you use it as a library, or if you get the summary object, you get a console property, which presents it in it's an array, and each console log is it's a really difficult. It was a difficult problem to even get it into the report in the first place, and the way they're displayed are down to me, just like that will do, that might work, but I put absolutely zero thought into it, or I haven't really revisited it either, so I haven't gone and refactored anything or changed the way it looks. But again, if you have suggestions over the way that it looks or way it should be, then please drop them into the repo, and I can have a think about changing that up. I've changed it initially. So what happened previously, the console logs are one of the things I wanted to add to the report as well, which wasn't included before, and I had a separate tab. So it had all those tabs across. There was a fifth tab that had logs. So when there was console logs, it would then put them in that tab, and it looked awful. There was no way to link anything together, so you couldn't link that console log to a request in any way. So what I tried to do was, with the help from Judith, who's one of the engineers at Postman, who's amazing, he gave me help in putting those console logs into the actual individual requests, so that the context of that log is in the request now, rather than separate. And there's no linkage there. There's nothing there.
Cool. Yeah, and I saw Evan Lindsay commented that there are some talks, some good streams, possibly from Galaxy. That was our conference that we held back in March, maybe. Yeah, there were all sorts of talks, but a wide variety of topics. But yeah, there's apparently some that cover using Newman and Jenkins. So Evan, if you can share that link, that'd be awesome.
Yeah, that's great. Obviously, with the Postman team, we're trying to create new content and trying to make things accessible to everyone. So we want people to use Jenkins and Newman or Postman. So to create more content around that, we have these level up videos, which could be another video or maybe a longer video. But also, there's lots of content on the wider internet, especially YouTube, from Valentin Desper, who creates content all the time. And some of his older content is around Jenkins. So there's potential for finding something in there. And because Postman is such a community-driven and well-loved tool, everyone's creating content all the time, and there's some amazing videos that people create. It's fantastic. If you just look through different YouTube channels and videos and just do a basic search, you'll stumble across lots of different cool things.
Yeah.
Not just Jenkins, but lots of other things.
Yeah. Yeah. It looks like Evan posted a link here, so hopefully folks that were asking about Jenkins find that useful. Yeah, should we jump back in, Danny, and show a bit more?
If you want, that'd be great.
Yeah.
So what I've got
your screen back up.
Show the screen. So what I did in the background, while our beautiful faces were on screen, was that as part of the reporter, there's a help for the reporter as well. So like I showed earlier on in the stream with Newman, you can see the flags of the reporter. So with HTML Extra, there's also a help flag. So if you've got that installed globally, then you can use the -H. I'm really conscious about saying H and her now. What have you done?
I'm sorry. Yeah, I've polluted your pronunciation brain.
My brain's just like, I don't know what to say anymore. but you know what I mean. This
Yeah.
thing here, this one. So I've included a lot of different flags, which again do various different things. So by including the logs flag, it will show you the logs. There's you can change the title. You can change the title in the tab, the title in the reporter, make it smaller. You can omit certain headers, so that's pretty cool if you have, say, authentication headers that have tokens of sensitive nature that you want to omit from that, or you want to, skip a certain header. Omit would take the whole lot out. So it's a good way of like customizing certain things. So if you are giving the report to someone else, you don't want to give over your secret tokens to everyone else. So what it will do is that view on the screen of the table of the headers, it will just take that line out if you've got the name correct. But also things like it will show you the environment data you have, or your descriptions, or there's lots of different things to play around with. And of course, with requests coming in for new things, then we can just add, or we and me probably, we can add anything you like into the project, given the time I have available. Hopefully someone else will help me out, but it's open source, so if you bring down the code and you've got a feature in mind that you want to put into the reporter, please, that would save me so much time, and that'd be great.
I think, yeah, Dave, I don't think we've really touched on the fact that Newman and your reporter are open source projects. So folks can, we often have people asking, if they can, contribute, if they can get involved. And yeah, sorry, just these are valuable ways to open source.
Yeah, sorry, I just realized how quick I was doing that and how bad that would look on the screen. So I'm just opening my repo. So like I mentioned before, if you have an issue or you have something that you want to raise, then drop a message. So issues is on GitHub is kind of it's a weird term, because issue to me feels like a problem, but the majority of the issues are feature requests. There's a couple of bugs, but they're normally just I would like it to be able to do this thing. So please, if you jump on the repo and you want to answer a question or get in touch with me, that's one of the ways. Or like Sean said, the community is an awesome place, not just for asking questions about the reporter, but just Postman in general and anything you have or any problems you have. So just try and contact me wherever you like, and I will no doubt see it, because I like to be everywhere. Yeah, and everything's open source, so yeah, you can grab my code and do what you like with it, and help me out if you have a certain feature. The code is as good as the person who wrote it, so I won't show you it. That's all I have to say on the matter. So yeah, it works.
It has beautiful light and dark mode.
It's beautiful. That's the main feature.
Exactly.
The themes, the toggle of the themes.
Arlemy has an interesting take on the open source world.
Profit.
Yeah, exactly. Profit.
Done. So I what else? So one thing I did want to touch on is that because Newman can run your collections from the command line, and the purpose of that is to integrate that into your CI pipeline. So Jenkins has been mentioned quite a lot, which is cool because it's pretty popular. But also there's a number of different CI tools out there, and also GitHub have actions you could plug it into, or GitLab have their own pipelines or CI tooling within GitLab. But also Bitbucket pipelines, Travis CI, Circle CI, or lots of different tools do a very, very similar thing. But you can use Newman as a Docker image of Newman, or bring it in the project like you would any other project. I created a kind of mini CI pipeline example, to just running through different examples of using these tools with Newman, a dummy collection, and then seeing the output of that. So if you jump onto GitHub and kind of search for my name and anything with pipeline, CI pipeline, you'll get to it pretty quickly. And this is just a really quick example of using Newman with a collection and an environment in some sort of CI environment. So as I scroll down, I'm conscious of doing this really slowly. So there's things like Travis, and everything's kind of driven off a YAML file, which seems to be generally how most of the pipelines work. The ones I've used, I can only speak for the ones that I've used, but generally it's a YAML file that creates the pipeline run, or the config for the pipeline run. So, and this is the kind of the output that you're likely to get from Travis. But I want to go down. I want to actually go into a project and show you, rather than just show you a README. So I'm trying to do this really slowly. Mainly because it looks horrendous when you scroll through.
Quick, yeah.
Oh, it's terrible. So I'm going to go. So each of these, the external ones, have got a link. So this will open up GitLab, hopefully. So this is kind of very, very similar, but in GitLab, the files that we're running. So again, I'm using RESTful Booker are there, and I've got this this YAML.
Can you zoom in one time?
Yeah, sure. I completely forgot. This is
maybe
what Lemon told me before.
Yeah, there we go. Yeah.
Is that cool?
Yep. No,
I remember him saying, if you go to something else, you probably need to zoom. So thanks for telling me. Where's your comment for telling me? So yeah, so what this is doing is like it's using GitLab CI system, and it has the syntax of that is slightly different than others, but they can look the same. And they go through different stages, and this is just an example of just a very small part of what a pipeline could be. And this is just using my my Docker image. So I created a Docker image which has it's just a small node image with Newman and the HTML extra bundled together. So you don't really have to do anything. You don't have to install anything. So what GitLab is using that, it's creating that image, and then the script that it's running is just like very, very similar to what I was using in the command line. So Newman run as the entry point, and then it's grabbing the files within the environment, but also using the flag, the reporters. So I'm using the CLI flag, CLI reporter with the HTML extra reporter, but I'm also specifying a location. So I want this to go somewhere. If you don't specify this, like we saw before, it will create that Newman directory and put the file in there, and it will give it a name, the collection name and the timestamp. But here you have the ability to create the report in a location of your own choosing, the name. You can choose whatever you like. And what happens with this? So I want to run this down the left-hand side, the CI/CD option and the pipelines. So this is a free project. This is a free thing that I used. I might not be able to use it because I might need to sign in. And what it does, it just runs what I eventually. Too much lag. There's a lot of clicking involved. But eventually you'll get to the point where it's run within GitLab. It's taken the image, it's run the report, and then it's created an artifact at the bottom. So it's created a report based off that. And then the right-hand side will show you any artifacts that have been created. So in this run, I'm using the HTML reporter, but it could be a JSON reporter, it could be a CSV reporter, it could be anything. And what it's going to do is going to produce that artifact over here, and you can open up the browse, and then this will open up again a different report run on a different day, the 24th of June. Not that long ago, but yeah, that's the last time I run it. And again, it's going to open up the report that's generated from the collection run, and yeah, they're exactly the same. But that's all done through GitLab, nothing to do with anything other than GitLab.
That's cool. I mean, this is the first time, I know we talked about it, Danny, but this is the first time I'm kind of seeing it run live, and this is really neat.
Cool. Yeah, like I'm completely biased, so I think it's quite cool anyway. But it's nice to hear other people also appreciate it as well. That's great. Thank you.
Yeah. What about folks in the chat? Very curious to hear your thoughts. Other questions coming in. Arlemy said, you don't realize it, but Danny works on a video projector.
My screen is huge, and I'm so like on my side, everything is so zoomed in, and it's very difficult to see. But for your pleasure,
this is for you guys out there.
Yeah, hopefully you can see it. I'd rather you see it than me see it.
Yeah, no, I mean this looks great from here. Yeah, so I mean the idea of creating artifacts, right? Like who's going to be the kind of the target folks using this? Like, who would this benefit?
I mean, it could benefit anybody. If you have a manager that needs a report or something, you want to keep reports for yourself. I mean, every single time you run Newman, you might not want to report. I mean, you don't really need a HTML file every single time you run a report unless you're giving it to someone. So the reports that you create, be it HTML, CSV, JSON, whatever it may be, if you're creating something, you're creating something for someone. So it might be for you, but it might be for someone else. So if you don't need to create it, you can use the CLI reporter. But yeah, it could be any number of people. There's so many different projects out there and so many different development teams that use lots of different things that it could be any number of reasons. I couldn't even begin to list off the reasons. I would love to hear who gets these reports, because I see the good side of people saying it's really cool, but I'd love to hear who you're creating reports for. What type of things are you sending, or what? I want to know more information. I love hearing about it.
Yeah, I mean, so you have, correct me if I'm wrong with the number here, but was your package downloaded over 2 million times now?
Maybe. Another embarrassing fact. Yeah, but I think it's like maybe 2.3 million now. So it's pretty popular, but it's gathered pace as people have known it, and people have very, very thankful for this. But they've created videos on it, or they've mentioned it in a conference, or a number of different ways people have mentioned the reporter. And again, it's gained traction. And as more and more people are using it, and especially people using it in their CI pipeline every day, and it's bringing it back.
Don't you dare forget that 0.3.
Hey, 300,000 is a lot. Yeah. So every time someone runs it, obviously it's getting a download, but I don't do it for the download. I wanted to create something for me initially, and if people find it useful, that's cool, and hopefully we can together maintain it and make it as good as it can be. I mean, there's parts of it. There's obviously limitations. Creating massive HTML reports from a huge collection has absolute performance hits, and it's one of the things that really frustrates me the most, because it takes so long for the report to open, because it's doing lots of different things, and there are flags that you can use to reduce the data or reduce some of the things that are happening, but it's a terrible experience, and I would love to apply the time to do that. And if anybody has more experience on performance issues or being able to help that would be awesome. But if you're running huge collections, even a small collection with 10,000 iterations, it's going to kill. It's going to kill your browser tab. Yeah, I mean, but again, who's going to want to read, the request X from, iteration 895? Why is that request? And it depends on who you're giving the report to. If there's no need to create a big report, then there's no real need to create it. Yeah.
So while there's no questions coming in, I've got a few questions here. So I'll ask you some of my thoughts here. So what's next for HTML Extra Reporter? I saw a few open issues. What are you like on the roadmap? This is priority one, the thing I want to add or a feature I want to get in there. Anything?
Well, I mean, like performance-wise, it was always on my mind, but that's going to take so much time and experience. I'm basically learning on the job. I'm learning as I go. So that's going to take some time. There are some open issues, and mainly around really poorly coded things, or the logic of something. It's not really a reporter issue as such, but something's really, because I know they're there. It bugs me.
Yeah.
So I try and close out, especially bugs, as quickly as I physically can. Obviously, doing my day job at the same time. But I never really had a roadmap. When I created the reporter, I looked at other reporters and looked at other repositories and saw what things people wanted. Okay, I want to put console logs in. I want to do this. I want to have iteration tabs. I want to do this and that. I want to expose things, and I'm like, I can do that. So I added it onto the reporter. So I've kind of run out of ideas, but there are lots of feature requests, or not lots, but enough to keep me busy. And because it's open source, I'd love people to contribute. I'd love people to help me out. And there's been some so long.
Let me ask about our agile.
I talk to myself about stuff every day, but there are. I've done like the majority of the work, but it's a fork of a different reporter. So I've added my flavor to a reporter, but some of the features that people are using, other contributors have put them in. So there's a list of people I like to put on the README. I know GitHub kind of does this when people do, but I wanted to recognize people for reaching out and helping out and adding to the reporter and the experience for others. So there's a list of names on the reporter that on the repo README, but also the changelog lists their name as well. So check out their work as well. And people adding features which I didn't even ask for. I'm like, wow, that's cool. And then I'm like, of course you can add that. But it's I love hearing from people, and if people can make the reporter better, then it's going to be better for the general public. If it's a very niche thing that people are asking for, it's quite a difficult thing to justify a little bit. I want to add everything that people ask, but I kind of need to think about everybody else using the reporter, and not really specific niche use cases is very difficult. But with that, you can create custom templates. So you can take the reporter template if you want, and you can manipulate anything on there. You can completely delete it, or you can create your own completely new template and present any data you want. It's still using the same data, but you have your own spin on it. If you want to, take out some of the stuff that I've done, or add maybe a company logo, or change the coloring, or take away the dark theme. But why would you want to do that?
Oh yeah,
but but you can literally do whatever, anything you like, and it's completely unique to you. And there's a flag on the command line that you can use, which is on the repo. I know we're not sharing the screen anymore, but it's everything's there and available. But if you do have, let me take this off.
Yep.
I was looking at you at the same time.
Yeah.
So on the repo, let's go back to the README. So bad.
I know you're paying. Like, it looks great on the screen, but I know that it's like challenging to scroll through gigantic font.
It's very challenging. So on the repo itself, I've listed the flags that it has, and then maybe like a little example of how you'd use that. So the custom template would be, you're using Newman run. It's very terrible because it's zoomed in, but that would be the flag. I'm trying to locate it. So reporter HTML extra template, and then the file path to whatever file you are using, and that's a handlebars file. So it's got a HBS file extension on it, and handlebars is the templating engine that all the HTML reports use, and it's got its own syntax, and I don't really want to get into that because that will be another hour, and that will be boring for a lot of people. But yeah, on my README, all the flags are there to use Newman from a global point of view. But what we didn't touch on, I did very, very briefly, if I scroll all the way down these beautiful flags I've created. Keep going. So you can use Newman as a library. So you can bring it into a Node project and run it from a Node script, which is great because it brings the ability to use other Node pack or NPM packages. So the file system, any way you want to manage your environment secrets, lots of different things, and these are the same flags but in a library. So this is a very kind of horrible view of this, but this bringing Newman in from a library point of view, and then it's Newman.run, and then an object of different things. So these are just specifying how you would run it. So a collection, the reporters, but the HTML extra flags are accessed through here, and this is how you specify them. So it's slightly different as you would be adding it to the command line, because you might need to put true, because you can just put the flag and that would be true. And the naming structure are they're they're the same. They're the same names, but the way they're like kind of camel case, so they're within an object in that script. So yeah, I mean, jump onto the README, but if anything doesn't make sense, please let me know, and I can just change anything or add a different example, or hopefully make it more accessible to everyone.
Yeah, this is cool. Priyanka says, today she learned a new skill, which is always an exciting goal to stream. Hopefully, yes, it's entertaining, educational.
Number one goal.
Yeah, right. But cool. Glad you were here, Priyanka. So, Danny, when did you realize this became more than just like, I'm going to build this for me, and it became like a benefit to community users? Was there like a tipping point for you?
I think as it gained kind of traction and people started talking about it, so I was like super happy with like 500 people downloading it. That was just wow. Someone really likes what I've done. Maybe that 500 was kind of me downloading it lots of times as well. But once it gained traction and people started to use it, like obviously like 1 million is a huge milestone, and being able to create something that people use regularly and seeing the types of companies use it, because I can kind of see on GitHub who uses the project, like the NHS in the UK. Their teams, the digital teams, use the reporter, which for me is pretty cool because it's the National Health Service, so that's awesome. But I think as more people started to talk about it, and they appreciated the aesthetics of the report itself, and like the themes and the way I've laid something out, because initially it didn't really look like that. It looked completely different, and it's pretty awful. If I'm honest, I want to show that. Can I show that?
I was going to say, yeah, of course. I think you showed me earlier on the first iteration of it. So it'd be cool to see where it started.
Trying to think. Sorry. I'm trying to think what I created some stuff that. So this is using Newman in a library in a small project.
While you're searching, Daniel, Amrit says, "Hey, great to see you on the live stream."
Great to see you.
Yeah.
I hope Germany's working out for you. I'll do my best German, but I know none. I could say hello and probably order a beer. I think that's
the two most important things to know for going to another country.
Yeah, it's really bad. So I'm going to run Newman. So I'm using like the template, the property, which I created a template file, and this is the one I used when I first created the reporter, because what I wanted to do was just create a reporter that kind of looked like the normal one, right? I didn't really have a plan on. Oh God, I can't even type. What is this script called? This one. Sorry. So this is going to run, and it's going to create hopefully a report, if I've done it right. There's the progress bar that's been totally stolen. So that would have created the most recent. See, this is why naming your folders is so much better, because the way that I've named something is the collection name and then a timestamp, and I'm trying to read the time and think, is that the latest one? Is that the latest? Oh, and then the time zone's not quite right, and so yeah, it's good to name and export a file where you want it. This is the big one. I don't know. Do I need to zoom in more?
Yeah. So this is the very first version.
Yeah. So this is like V1. So I just took the HTML reporter that Postman did and just thought, okay, I just want to put some color in it and maybe put a box, and it looks awful, and it hurts my eyes.
I was going to say, does it pain you to see the original version?
No. It's quite nice because I can kind of see where it's gone, which is nice, like the evolution of where it's at. And I just wanted to add like green stuff and then open this up, and then I did this. So it's just like it's just a reporter, but this is just a template. So again, it's using the most up-to-date Newman HTML extra package, but it's just using a custom report. It's just it's a representation of that data in a different way. Unfortunately, this is the older template of the reporter. So this is the thing that 2.3 million people would have got if I didn't change it. So it's or downloaded this many times, but it worked. It's what I wanted. It was what I wanted to achieve at the time. But yeah, it's obviously evolved into some other beast now. So it's like doing all different things, and then the failures will be in a certain place, and you can expand folders and expand requests eventually, and then you can do lots of different other things that I wanted to add. But the initial file, I couldn't really do that because it's just a single page, and it's not really doing a great deal, to be honest.
Yeah, it's awesome to see
V1.
Yeah, V1, see where it started and what it's become. And I personally just love the story of like, yeah, I just want to make something a little bit better than it was before, right? And it's just kind of been this like iterative process of, you wanted to do a little bit more, hearing other people taking it and being like, hey, like, what about this? What about this? And then now it's an awesome project that's loved by quite a few people.
Yeah, so it's been great, and hopefully it continues to be better all the time. But also, hopefully, it'll encourage people to create new custom reporters in whatever problem they're trying to solve, and present that data in a way that is useful to you in any system that you use internally, or you have an idea for something and you want to integrate the Newman data into a certain tool. Then publish the package, and hopefully other people can reap the benefits of that as well and see what you've done. Awesome. I want to take this off because it's
yeah. I'll take it down, Fred. Oh yeah, it's like I created something better than this.
Yeah, this is not right.
We got a few thanks here. Some Sumit, thanks Dan, thanks Sean, wonderful session. Thank you so much, Sumit. Thanks for sticking around, asking questions, and being engaged. It makes these streams fun for us. Yeah. We also have
you guys been great.
Yeah. Dinesh Kumar, Postman always stood up for us and eagerly waiting for learning the HTML extra. Awesome. Yeah. Well, thanks for being a fan of Postman, and thanks for hopping on the stream with us here. And Danny, I'd say like if folks wanted to learn more, where should they go? Just to the GitHub repo. I mean, it's very well documented. That's where I did most of my learning.
Yeah, for the reporter, for my reporter, the GitHub repo is the README on there. Hopefully, it gives you enough information. But failing that, if you want to reach out to me on Twitter or Danny Dayton, it's very original naming. I've got a funny name. The Postman community, Sean mentioned, awesome place. If you want to reach out to me there, or any place you can get me, really, and I'd love to explain more about the project, about Newman, about Postman, about anything that you want to talk about, and hopefully we'll go. We can work through something together.
Cool. And Danny, you fortunately or unfortunately, however you want to take it, you've actually been applied now to every other stream. So I hope you're ready.
Damn it! I have to tell my wife that I'm busy. I'm busy every day.
Yeah. Cool. And then Shiva says thank you. Yeah, thanks so much to you. So I think this is as good a time as any to kind of wrap up. Danny, thanks so much for joining. I've loved just getting to chat with you and learn more.
Thanks for having me.
Any shout outs you'd like to do or give as we come to a close here? I know I'm putting you on the spot.
I'm literally trying to think of something. Can I think getting more people active in the community has been obviously a thing that I want to push for so long, and getting more people talking about Postman is awesome. But trying to centralize that information into the Postman community side, and if you're not a part of that, or if you've never visited it, just jump on there. Everyone's super friendly. If you have a problem, post it on there. But I think obviously, Postman's all about community and people working together to solve problems. No one wants to see anybody stuck on a certain thing if they know the answer. So jump on the community if you have a problem. There's lots of amazing people on there who go out of their way to provide information or give you the means to try and solve your problem. So that's my big shout out. But obviously continue to use Postman because it's awesome.
Cool. Awesome. Yeah, and I'll shout out the folks that have helped, encourage you to make, the reporter what it is, because I think it's a cool thing to see that progress and see the community get involved. And it's led to a pretty cool project that, like you said, has been being used by quite a few big names and lots of folks. So it kind of echoes what you're saying. It's just folks being involved in the Postman community. It's really an awesome place. The community forum is such a cool spot. Where we're both active and love interacting with people there. But yeah, so I think that's all. If you enjoyed this stream, thanks for sticking around. We do this once a week on Thursdays. So next week, Arlemy and Joyce, it's got a fun stream coming up. They're going to try to hack a Roomba, and hopefully the folks. Yeah, I'm excited for that one. Folks that are that attend that session, hopefully you'll be able to kind of follow along, make some API calls within Postman to make a Roomba go crazy.
That'd be cool.
I know in past ones we've had I think Joyce has a light that can be changed via API calls, and so sometimes folks will still to this day change her light in the middle of a stream, and she always kind of gets a kick out of that. So
that's really cool.
Yeah. All right, I think that's it. Dinesh says, let's learn. I love it. I'm with you. Sheba says, me too. If that means you'll be there next week, awesome. I'll be there as well. So, all right, Danny, I'll let you go.
Thanks, everyone. Appreciate it.
Go.
See ya.
All right, have a good one. Bye.
Bye. Bye.